All right. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started here. I just wanted to say good afternoon and good morning to those of you joining us from Japan. Just want to kick off this call by welcoming everybody, wishing everybody a very happy holidays from the Bellator family to you and yours. Thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to cover this historic event between Bellator and RIZEN. As you know, it takes place New Year's Eve from the famous Saitama Super Arena in Japan. Joining us on today's call, we've got Bellator President Scott Coker, along with RIZEN President Nobuyuki Sakakibara. The fights are right around the corner, and so we just wanted to take the opportunity before Christmas to give the media a chance to ask questions. So if you have a question, please press the raise hand button, and we will call on you. We're just going to jump right into it here. I'll call on the first person, Nolan King. Your line is live.
Thanks, Danny. My first question is for Scott. Scott, we've seen Bellator and RIZEN partner a handful of times in the past. I guess, what do you think, what do you attribute this relationship to and why does it work so well?
This is a relationship that really started in 2004, 2005. So it's been quite a long time, many years of working together. Not always, because, whether he was, when he was on his non-compete period, I was on my non-compete period. But there's, it's really been about a 17-year friendship and relationship that has led to these fights taking place. And by the way, it's not always easy. This relationship, even though it's solid, still has many bumps along the way to get to this point where we can put something like this together. So I'm extremely happy about what we're putting together on New Year's Eve. I think it's very exciting. This is historical for MMA because it just doesn't happen, as you know. But like I said, it's been a long relationship. But to get to this point, there's been some bumps and bruises. But we're ready to go.
And, you talk about the bumps and bruises. I'm sure sometimes it's difficult maybe to figure out what exactly you guys want to do with one another when it comes to these cards. And you guys have done this, like I said, a bunch of times in the past, but it seems like particularly with this one, you guys are all in. Like, you have some of your really headlining stars going over to Japan for this competition. So was there any hesitancy on your part, like when the names started getting brought up, like Pitbull and McKee, like, I don't know if we want to give them all the stars over there, or are you just all in from the start?
I'll tell you, when we first started talking about this event, I really was thinking, okay, maybe we'll send a couple of our top guys, a couple of our, B-level guys, a couple of our C-level guys, and just bring a very mixed team. Sakakibara is the one that said, no, bring all your best guys. We want to fight all your top fighters, which I was surprised. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, let's do your best, and let's get the best of the best fighting in Saitama Super Arena on New Year's Eve. And that's what we did.
And my last question's for Sakakibara. There's a lot of MMA promotions out there. From your perspective, I guess, why do you choose Bellator? What do you like about them, and why do you think this relationship works so well?
一番はやっぱりスコットとの、先ほどスコットからの説明があったみたいに、やっぱりこの業界で本当に苦楽を共にする時間を長く持ってる、そういういい、ヘルシーな、すごく競争相手だけども、本当に信頼がおけるヘルシーな、素晴らしい関係ができてるっていうのが一つ、ベラトールというか、ベラトールということよりもスコットとそういう関係があるというのがまず一つです。
So the main reason would be, just as Scott has described earlier, it's the long-term relationship that we've had. And obviously, we've both been in this business for a long time. We've seen the ups and downs of this business. But most importantly, the healthy competitive relationship we've been having in this industry is one of the main reasons. It's more of we're doing this because of Scott Coker. And more Scott Coker than actually Bellator. It's because of Scott's and our relationship. That's one reason.
で、あと、やっぱり我々はこの MMA ってスポーツは、どこが起源かっていうのは別として、プライドの時代は本当に日本が、そのスポーツのメインの場所だったと思うけど、今はもう完全に北米だと思います。それは UFC、そしてベラトール、この2大メジャーブランドが、やっぱり世界の MMA のやっぱりメジャーリーグなんで、だからそこの、やっぱり北米でメジャーリーグの、このベラトールと、我々とするとやっぱり日本というね、過去プライド時代はメインのパート、国だったかもしれないけど、今はもう北米であるんで、その北米の、やっぱりビッグプロモーションとの、やっぱりコープロモーションというか、コラボレーションというか、それが、我々からすると一番ワクワクする。上位概念に挑んでいくっていうシチュエーションがいい。ファンも喜ぶと思います。
So another reason is that, despite where the MMA origin came from, Pride had its days back in Japan, but the modern MMA industry is everything is leading from North America. North America is the place for mixed martial arts right now. And obviously there are major players in North America. Definitely Bellator is one of them. And as, as a promotion in Japan, it's very exciting for us to take on and challenge the major league. So that concept, the business, it used to be in Japan, but now it's in North America for us. So for us, it's very important that, we challenge the major league. We challenge North America. We challenge the global market. And that's what the Japanese fans are wanting to see.
We'll take our next question from John Morgan.
Thanks, Danny. Scott, I wanted to start with you if I could, please. I just wanted to ask you personally. I mean, New Year's Eve, Japan, I mean, it's a legendary day in the sport for years and years. So just personally, I mean, business aside, what does this mean for you to be involved in such an event like this?
I'm really excited and honored to be a part of New Year's Eve at this level, meaning a fight where we're going to bring 5 of our top guys against 5 of RIZEN's top fighters and champions. As you guys know, the history of this arena having fights on New Year's Eve, I believe it goes back 20 years now. And even when I was, I was working for K1 at the time, and then I stopped working for K1 around 2006, 2007. But I still went back to Japan to see the New Year's Eve show because it was such a big spectacle. And if you've never been there or you've never seen it, you got to tune in and watch it because it is something that's spectacular. I can't describe it. There's nothing like it. And when I remember walking through the tunnel and seeing the whole production and the whole event and the fighters that were fighting at that time, it was really, really something that just stuck to me. And here we are years later, coming in with our top guys, and this is going to be a historical event. I'm really, really excited because not only will you see, our fighters fighting in a different apparatus, a different environment, a different country, different rules, different regulations. It's something that we're going to test our guys. They're going to test our guys, and it's all going to be at the Saitama Super Arena, which is really the Yankee Stadium of MMA.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing concept. And as you said, I mean, you guys have had this relationship for a while, but not to this level where it's this super card like this on a historic night. So I'm just curious. I mean, are you hoping that this is the beginning of an annual type thing, a partnership, or are you just kind of looking at it as, well, let's wait and see what happens? How are you viewing this?
Well, Sakakibara and I talked about a 2-fight event because the next one has to be in a cage and it has to be under the Bellator rules. And, things can be different when the rules are different and the apparatus is different and just coming into a different environment. Whether we do that here in the US or in Japan, it hasn't been figured out. I think Hawaii would be something that would be a lot of fun. Maybe in the future we could do something together there. But, I want to just get through this first one on the 31st, and then we can start talking about the future together.
And last thing I have for you, Scott, I mean, obviously the friendship and the relationship that you guys have is well documented, but I'm just curious. I mean, does this indicate a willingness from you, from Bellator, to entertain offers from other promoters to do something like this? Or is this just a unique relationship because of, how much you guys have known each other?
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but our relationship really started when we were, basically trading fighters back and forth. Aoki fought here against Gilbert Melendez back years ago. We sent Josh Thompson to fight Kawajiri, but also Sakakibara really, saved us one time when we were doing the Strikeforce. We didn't have a main event, and I asked Sakakibara if he would send somebody over, and he sent over Alistair Overeem to fight Vitor Belfort, right? So he really went out of his way to help Strikeforce back in the day. I've never forgot. And I always said, one day, if I can, I'll reciprocate and then some. And here we are working with other promoters. There has to be a certain amount of trust. And what are they bringing to the table? And I think that's really the question is, what is the relationship going to look like moving forward? And, what fighters are they going to want to fight? Or, what does the business look like maybe moving forward after the event's over? So there's a lot of questions because really, John, as you know, you're putting your fighters in harm's way. You're putting your brand in harm's way. And that's okay because that should be the martial arts way, right? And where the best fight the best. And when Sakakibara owned Pride, that's what happened. Before the UFC came and bought Pride, the best fighters were fighting in Pride. And the best fighters were fighting in K1 at that time. So I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the best fighters should fight the best fighters. But there's a business component to it. And, does it make sense in the long run? And is there a certain amount of trust between you and the other promoter to make sense, that it makes business sense?
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, man. Definitely excited for the event. And Mr. Sakakibara, please, I just wanted to ask what you thought of the lineup of fighters the Bellator is sending to Japan. You asked for their best. You got their best. What do you think of the lineup they're sending to you?
選手たちに対して
スコットが本気だなっていう、もう本当にさっきのスコットの話に、ベストのトップの選手を、集めてほしいっていうか、を出してほしいっていうリクエストに、本当に真正面に応えてくれたなってことを嬉しく思ったのと、これは本当にこっちも、チャンピオン含めてね、全力で立ち向かわないと、スコットにも失礼だし、やっぱり全然太刀打ちできないなっていう、スコットの本気度を感じたのと、本当に嬉しく、ある意味ワクワク、自分自身も嬉しく思いましたけど、やることは大変だなっていう、反対側でそういう、仕事のこととか選手を交渉して口説くこと、やっぱり選手たちは、スコットが出してきたメンバーをそれぞれ、それはサトシソーダにしても、クレベルにしても、やっぱりその選手であることに対しては、ナーバスになるというか、そんな感じですね。
はい。So yeah, when we first saw Bellator's lineup, we truly felt how serious Scott was with this co-promoting event. As he said, he brought the best, and he was extremely sincere to our request. And when we saw the lineup, we were very very excited and surprised at the same time, because now we know that Scott is absolutely serious, Bellator is absolutely serious, and we need to bring our absolute best. And it's an absolutely tough task to take on the best of Bellator. But we need to respond by giving our best, and with the respect to Scott giving his the best lineup. We were excited, but we also knew that we needed to fully commit and have our fighters commit to this co-promoted event. So it was a lot of tough tasks ahead on convincing our guys to take the fights, but we're very excited and nervous at the same time.
Nice. Last question for me. I just want to ask, why New Year's Eve? That's typically a night that Japan, you would have had the spotlight anyway, whether you invited Bellator or not, but you choose to invite Bellator to this card. Why was this the right time to have an event like this?
大晦日がやっぱり僕ら2015年からライジンっていうのを立ち上げて7年目になるんですけど、7回目の大晦日で、 最初の2015年の大晦日にも、スコットにも協力してもらって、スコットにも見に来てもらったんですけど、大晦日がやっぱり日本では本当にトラディショナルなスペシャルな日であるということが一つと、まあ本当に2000年ミレニアムのとこから20年間大晦日に格闘技を見る、格闘技のイベントをやるってことがもう、我々日本の格闘技業界の中では一つの恒例になっている。で、その日はやっぱりシーズンのピークとしてスペシャルなイベントを、通常の、大会とは別にもう少し規模のでかい、みんながワクワクする、ドキドキする、そういうスペシャルなイベントを作り出すっていうことが、まあ、期待されてるんで、その期待に、応える、にはもう、あまりあるぐらいの、ベラトル側からのラインナップなんで、やっぱりこれは大晦日にスペシャルイベントとして見せるべきだというふうに、思いました。
So, RIZEN we started our event back in 2015. So this will be our 7th New Year's Eve. And back in 2015, when we first had our event, Scott also helped us provide his fighters. And, we had the cooperation back then. And New Year's Eve is definitely a traditional day for Japan, culturally, and for our industry. Like Scott said, we've been doing MMA fights, big fights on New Year's Eve for the past 20 years. And it's become a tradition, and it's a culture that people expect on New Year's Eve. So we've always wanted to make New Year's Eve the season peak, the highest point of the entire year. So we want to spice it up a little bit. We want to add a little flair, and people are always anticipating what can we see this year. So when we start thinking about what to do on New Year's Eve, right now is a great time to cooperate with Bellator bringing their best. And, this was just the best timing and the best thing to present to the fans who are anticipating what we're doing this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, we've got quite a lineup here of questions. So if we could limit it to 1 or 2 per media member, we'd really appreciate it. We'll take our next question from Jay Anderson.
Thanks very much. And Scott, I'll try to keep these brief. We've talked a lot about the best going against the best, which is absolutely happening here. But was there anyone that you hope to have on this card who, for logistics or injury or anything else, you just couldn't get here for New Year's?
Yeah, I would say Aaron Pico was definitely a fighter that we wanted to bring to Japan. But because of his shoulder injury in his last fight, he wasn't able to come here. But Aaron is somebody I think that would personally love to fight in Japan. And maybe in the future we can bring Aaron Pico back to the table.
And for Sakakibara-san, ohayo gozaimasu. Scott mentioned the idea of maybe going to the US for the next in this series. Does that interest you? Is that the logical next step? Maybe Hawaii?
もちろんです。やっぱりこの一過性のものじゃなくて、やっぱりこれが本当にトップバーサストップでね、何か本当にこの新しいこの格闘技 MMA インダストリーの一つのムーブメントになっていけばいい。まあそのプロモーションの中の順位決定戦じゃなくて、やっぱりプロモーション同士が全力でぶつかり合う。やっぱりここ本気のトップアスリートぶつけないとそういうこと起きないと思うけど、何かスコットとも新しいムーブメントが起きていくことが、起きるといいよねっていうことを言ってるんで、これは一過性のものではなくて、ここをキックオフにして、スコットとまた話をして、僕らがトップアスリートを連れてアメリカに、乗り込んで戦いたいと思います。
So yes, definitely we don't want this to be a one-time thing. We have no intentions of making this into a one-off. Obviously, the top versus top is what everybody wants to see, and we're hoping that this can be the beginning of a new movement in our industry, something that we can start something new, because you can only go so far when you're doing the ranking system within your own promotion, and we do believe that serious competition amongst the promotions is the next step of what we need in our industry. So we've been talking about, with Scott, we've been talking about how to create this new action, new movement. But, I think it makes absolute sense that after this event, a successful event, we take our Japanese athletes or our RIZEN athletes and head over to the States and fight under the Bellator rules. It only makes sense.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Santiago?
Thank you so much, Danny. And hi, Scott. Many people around the world were very excited about this big co-promotion event. Why do you think they reacted so well to the news? Do you think it's because of two promotions coming together with their best guys and putting it all on the line, which is unheard of, Scott? Or do you think it has a lot to do with the rich MMA history in Japan and the crazy RIZEN rules where more ground action is allowed?
I'll tell you, both are very good questions. And when I think about two promotions getting together like this and not just doing one fight or, two fights, but this is a 5-on-5, team match, like a team match, basically team runoff. And what I mean by that is it's like the Olympics. You bring 5 of your best athletes in different weight classes, and they bring 5 of their best athletes. And this is like a mini Olympics in my mind. And just historically, because of the way the MMA companies have been so, separated or maybe working in their own, let's say verticals or whatever you want to call it, their own company, it just hasn't happened, and the UFC doesn't do it, right? And in the past, we haven't done it. Sakakibara hasn't done it. We've done one-offs here, one-offs there. But to do something like this, where it's 5-on-5, the best fighting the best, it's an historical event, and I think that's why the people are so excited. The other answer to your question is, think about this. Where else in the world can you go on New Year's Eve and have 30,000 people there and come to a fight on a New Year's Eve event? It just does not happen. Martial arts is so ingrained in in Japan, and the DNA and who they are comes from a very rich tradition of traditional martial arts, and they love MMA. And so to me, you put all that together, and you put it together in Saitama Super Arena, like I said, which is the Yankee Stadium of MMA, along with our 5 athletes against theirs. It just makes for a very special night.
Yeah, very special indeed, Scott. And can you please briefly talk about what the thought process was behind picking Gatsi Rabadanov as your 5th guy? Because it took a little bit longer to announce him, but lightweight is a deep division in Bellator. Why specifically him? Did Khabib and Ali ask you for this fight?
Yeah, actually, Khabib asked me. He said, I have a fighter. I'd like to bring him and to go fight in Japan. I said, of course, then let's do it. And Khabib will be there in Japan, and Royce Gracie will be there in Japan. And it's going to be a lot of fun hanging out with them. And I think it's Khabib's first time in Japan. He's very excited to come.
Thank you for the time, Scott, and good luck on New Year's Eve.
Thank you.
Take our next question from Steven Morocco.
Question for Sakakibara. Do you think that the RIZEN scoring system more accurately reflects the winner of a fight than the 10-point must system used in America?
Mm. 優れてるというふうに一概には言えないというか、やっぱりポイントシステムによっても選手の戦い方、タクティクスとかね、戦略が変わるんで、それはやっぱり選手がそれをうまく理解してやってくれればいいと思いますし、どっちが優れてる優れてないってことは特にはないと思います。
So I don't think there's a difference on. I can't really speak for which is better and which is not better, but I think it's a because of the different judging system, because it's not because of rounded points. The fighters will have to fight with a different strategy, and with given those rule sets and judging criteria, it's up to the fighters to adapt to come up with their fight strategy. So I can't really say which is better, but fighters will probably have to adjust their strategy.
Scott, do you agree with that? Do you think that your fighters or the fighters from Bellator are going to have to adjust what they do? And do you think that it favors or disfavors or has no impact on what happens on New Year's Eve?
Steven, I think I'll be able to answer that on New Year's Eve. So you can text me and I'll text you back. But honestly, they had a rules meeting with our athletes about the gloves, and they sent over gloves of what they're going to be wearing. And they're, very honest about how the rules work. Our guys, all the coaches, everybody knows. So everything's out on the plate. And we wanted to do this event just like any other RIZEN event. And so, we didn't want it to be halfway use our gloves and halfway use their gloves. That was the original dialogue that did happen, but it just got confusing. So to me, this is a RIZEN event. We're joining on with them. And the next one, they'll have to come join with us.
Scott, would you like to see knees to the ground, knees to the head of a ground opponent and soccer kicks allowed in Bellator?
I'll tell you, I'm very happy with the rules, the way they sit in the US and with Bellator. But this is something that is allowed there. All our fighters, I can tell you this, our fighters all know about it. And they are excited about the expansion of the rules. And if they have an opportunity, they will take advantage of it. But personally, I feel very good about where we're at on the rules and regulations.
And one more question, if I could, for Mr. Sakakibara. Can't help but think of Fedor talking about New Year's Eve and fighting in Japan. What do you think about Fedor fighting his retirement fight in California with Bellator?
最後の試合についてどう思いますか？
もう発表されてるよ。いやいや、本当に、一時代を築いた、スーパースターなんで、本当にちょっと、すごく、僕も、もちろんその最後の試合を見届けに、アメリカまで行きたいと思ってますし、感慨深いものがありますね。
So yeah, so Fedor is definitely a fighter he's a superstar who built an era of the sport that we live in. And I plan on traveling to LA to watch his last fight. And there's a lot of mixed emotions behind his last fight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go next to Adam Guillen.
Question is for Mr. Coker, if I could. Piggybacking off that last question, was there ever any consideration to have Fedor compete just because of the rich history with Japan and pride, of course?
To be honest, in 2019, we did a fight at Saitama Super Arena with Sakakibara, and that was Fedor's last fight in Japan. And we didn't want to go back and be like, oh, this is his second last fight in Japan and run it back. So the idea originally was to fight in Japan. Next year we would fight in America, and then we were going to do the final fight in Russia at that time. Mm-hmm. And Fedor had a fight set up to be his retirement fight in Red Square of July of this year that obviously for many reasons just could not happen or did not happen. And we wouldn't go there. Because of the situation politically and with the war going on. So we had to scramble because COVID hit and then the war hit. So we did the second fight before in Moscow a year before in October. So about a year and a month ago, he was fighting or 2 months ago, a year and 2 months ago, he was fighting in Moscow and he did very well. And we were thinking, where can we put the retirement fight? But to go back to Japan just wasn't an option because we already had one retirement fight. And we said, look, when we land the CBS opportunity, we said, let's go for it because this is how he started to build his name in America. He had a couple of pay-per-view fights before he ended up on Strikeforce and on CBS. But really, I think there's like 6 million people watched that very first fight that he fought Brett Rogers. And that really helped launch his brand in America and let America know what the whole world already knew, which was he is the greatest fighter of all time.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And one quick question regarding the lineup. What went into deciding who was going to headline? Pitbull versus Urge or McKee? Was there any ego involved? Was there any friction or does that not even come into play?
Well, you must know these guys. That's why you're asking me this question. Of course, there's always personalities involved. Let's put it that way. But I will tell you something I was really, really impressed in watching. It was at the press conference at Roppongi Hills 2 months ago when we had our press conference there. We had all of our fighters. They had all their fighters, and really it was, AJ and Pitbull and Juan and all of our 4 fighters, Horiguchi. It's like they understand this is a Bellator team, and this is you're on the team, and they got it. And I could see them starting to bond together, and I could see them starting. So, granted, when this is over, believe me, that rivalry will continue. That's not going to go anywhere. But for this moment in time, they're going to be teammates, and they're going to be fighting together as a team. And I feel that there's camaraderie there for the team Bellator. I think there's camaraderie there for the team in RIZEN. And as far as who fights last and really that came from Sakakibara's decision, because they have their champion who's going to be fighting last, and that happens to be AJ McKee's opponent. But no one was complaining on our side. No one was, talking about, well, why is this? And they were just all happy to be there. They're excited to fight, and Team Bellator will be ready on the 31st.
Got it. Thank you so much. And one quick question for Mr. Sakakibara. How's it going to feel for you to have one of your former champions in Horiguchi now fighting for the other side, so to speak?
いや、なんていうのかな、どういう気持ちっていうか、ある意味、興味深いものになります。本当に日本では、驚くほど人気がある選手ですし、逆に僕らはやっぱりベラトールとか UFC とかをメジャーリーグと思ってるんで、プロ野球に例えると僕ら日本の、ね、野球の選手がメジャーリーグに行って、松井秀喜とか大谷翔平とか活躍する姿を常にニュースで知って誇りに思うんです。だから、そのメジャーリーグで戦う堀口が凱旋して日本でベラトールで戦うってことはある意味嬉しくもあるんで、そういう意味ではとっても興味深い。特になんかそれを嫌だとかって思ってなくて、プラスに捉えてます。これはファンも同じです。
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation because Horiguchi is an extremely popular fighter amongst the Japanese fans. And, like we said earlier, we do consider, Bellator, the UFC, the major league of the sport. And we look at Horiguchi just like in baseball. We had Hideki Matsui go to the major league. We have Shohei Ohtani right now. So it's kind of like, so we get the news, we watch the news, and we witness the Japanese fighters doing well overseas in the major leagues. And we feel proud for these individuals. And the same feeling goes to Horiguchi amongst us and amongst all the Japanese fans. So for us, it's like Shohei Ohtani coming back and fighting in competing against Japanese in the Japanese league. So, and we are very proud of that. And so it's not like we feel discomfortable, like uncomfortable. We're actually proud and we're very happy. It's a very interesting situation, but we're very happy that we can bring Horiguchi back as a current major league player. And we do believe that all the Japanese fans feel the same way.
Great, thank you so much.
We'll take our next question from Edward Carbajal.
Thank you. Mr. Coker, I'll ask, it's for both of you, but I'll ask you first, Mr. Coker. In keeping with the theme of co-promoting and trying to keep the RIZEN versus Bellator or moving forward in 2023, in between these events that you're talking about holding, would you consider doing you have a pretty robust YouTube channel, 1.59 million subscribers. Would you consider doing like a sub-only grappling event streaming on there between Bellator's best grapplers and RIZEN's best grapplers, because both promotions have pretty good grapplers in it?
I tell you, this is my answer is we're extremely busy already, and for us to do the amount of shows that we do, it's very challenging, and it's a grind every year to pump these shows out, and because we're doing fights at the highest level, just like Sakakibara. It's a lot of work, and to me, it's if it had something maybe more to it than that, maybe we could I'm not even sure what the hook would be, but if we had something that made sense, maybe we would consider it. But I love martial arts and I love grappling and jiu-jitsu, but we're in the MMA fight business, and I think we'll stick to that for now.
Okay.
We'll go to Roy Robinson next.
I have a question for both of you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, question for both. Obviously, this is a big event, co-promotion. Each promotion wants their fighters to obviously look really good on the card. Of course, you guys are friends and it's friendly competition, but do either of you have any incentives for your fighters to, maybe perform at their highest level for you?
Well, this is Scott. We have not discussed that with any of the fighters as far as incentive for winning their fight. It's something that we definitely will think about. But I think there's enough incentive already built in because of the historical event that this is, and just what it means to win this fight, whether you're for RIZEN or whether you're for Bellator.
僕も特別にそのインセンティブっていうのはお金と思いがちなんだけど、お金じゃなくてこの5人に選ばれたってことがもうインセンティブなんだ。だから選手たちはいつもはチームのため、国のため、家族のために戦うんだけど、今回はベラトールのため、ライジンのため、自分たちがやっぱり日々戦ってるホームチームのために戦うっていう新しいモチベーションが選手たちにもすでにあって、選手たちが、スコットも感じてると思うけど、すでにワクワクしてるんだ。それと、やっぱり誇りにも思ってるし、ここに選ばれたこと。これがもう何よりのインセンティブだと思うし、彼らが本当に全力で戦うにふさわしい環境、プロダクションも含めて、当日大晦日には我々がセットアップ、スコットと一緒にしますんで、選手たちはもうすごい、ここに選ばれるってことが本当に最大のインセンティブだっていうふうにもう感じてくれてると。
So for us, we have no plans on, providing them anything special, because when you think of incentive, the word incentive, a lot of people think of just straight up, numbers and cash money. But, for us, we do believe that, the incentive for these fighters is that being selected to such a great event and being selected to represent their promotion. And normally fighters fight for themselves, they fight for their family, friends, sponsors, team. But on top of that, for this one, they'll be fighting for their home promotion, which is something that they don't go through on a regular basis. So I'm sure Scott feels this too amongst his fighters, but we do feel that our fighters are extremely excited about this opportunity. They're very much looking forward for this, and they're very proud of being selected and representing their platform, their promotion. So I think that itself, being selected, is something special for these athletes, and it makes them feel special. Being selected itself is an incentive in their mind. So for what we can do, and Scott and myself are going to do our best to provide the best platform that these athletes can proudly fight in and perform at their best.
Thank you both.
We got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. We'll go to Nathan.
Greetings. And this is to both Mr. Sakakibara and Mr. Coker. We spoke about the things being on the line outside of bragging rights. Is there any trophy or anything this really seems as if it's the World Cup of MMA. So is there anything of that nature available for the winning organization?
Well, we had talked about a couple of things, but I really don't want to get into it. It's not going to be monetary, but there's somebody that kind of ruined that for everybody here. That you can't really, betting is not it's not what it used to be maybe a month ago. So it has a lot more. I would say stigma to it right now because of the situation. So it's not going to be monetary, but I do have a proposal to Sakakibara that we will be putting something on the line, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Thank you. Mr. Sakakibara, you're going into your 8th year with RIZEN, and 8 symbolizes new beginnings. What can we expect to see new in RIZEN in the upcoming year?
もちろん本当に期待してほしいし、アフターコロナになってね、これだけこの日本はアメリカはどうなのかあれだけど、アメリカもそうだと思うけど、早く負けちゃったんじゃないかもしれないけど、ワールドカップをやっぱり配信で見るっていう、もう本当に我々日本の中で言うと、テレビを見てスポーツを見るっていう時代から、もうネットで、本当にスマートフォンで見るっていう人たちにどんどん移行してるんで、ビジネスチャンスは広がってると思いますし、アフターコロナになって日本初世界に通じるような格闘技、ワールドワイドな格闘技コンテンツにどんどんしていきたいと期待してほしい。
So yeah, please look forward for RIZEN's new ventures in 2023. We're all at the post-COVID era now, and obviously both US and Japan had a good run in the World Cup. But through these world global festivities and content, we definitely see the shift in how the users watch content. It used to be terrestrial television, but now it's not. It's all on the internet. Now it's all streaming. So there's a lot more. We think that there's a lot more business opportunities because of this shift. And after the COVID's done, we're in a post-COVID era. I think now it's the time to start creating Japanese content that can wow the world. So our ambition is to create Japanese content and start to deliver it internationally.
We'll go to Bruno Masami.
Can you hear me? My question is to Sakakibara-san. Unfortunately, this time we not have a fights for the title. Did you believe in the future events, in the future big shows? This is a possibility in the table?
あると思います。本当に両団体の、その中でね、ベルトをかけてやるとかっていう、それはもうスコットとも、もうそんな可能性に関しても、これまでも話し合ったことがあるんで、本当に、いろんなものがここから生まれてくる、すべての可能性がオープンだと。
Yes, there's always a possibility for that. Maybe Scott, and as we've discussed about the possibilities and all sorts of stuff, but the fight being for the title fight for both events, it's definitely a possibility, and I think this is just the beginning of new things and new ideas to be born. So the potential is there.
And I have a question to Scott Coker. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, of course, we not saw a Bellator show in Japan in the last 2 years. Is there any possibility to see a Bellator event in Japan in 2023?
Well, I think you're going to see one on New Year's Eve with Sakakibara. It's really, I look at it like a Bellator and RIZEN show. It's going to look like a RIZEN show, but you're going to see some of our best fighters all over the world. But the best fighters in Bellator from all over the world come to Japan and fight their top athletes. So I think that's going to be a great show. And then we'll have discussions with Sakakibara where we take that further. And one thing I'd like to say is, over the last 7 years or 6 years since RIZEN was born, I've watched Sakakibara build this brand and build this product into what it is today, and it's quite impressive. He has built a business there, kind of on the world scene. It's kind of been on a very underground level, but if you go there and you see what he's accomplished and the business he's built, it is super impressive. And I think that he has all the building blocks in place, and he's going to do some great things in the future.
Thank you. ありがとうございます。
Matsuyama?
はい、ありがとうございます。柏木さん、ちょっと通訳お願いできますか。
はい。
今回の対抗戦のジャッジの陣容はどうなりますか。それは坂倉さんに聞いた方がいいでしょうか。
どうしましょ
ユースコットに。
う。Question to Scott, please. What kind of officiating will be taking place for this New Year's Eve event?
When you say officiating, you mean who are going to be the referees and the judges and everything? Yeah, I think, Shingo, you could answer it because I think we talked about the Japanese organization with the officials, but we are bringing 2 officials over from the US. So I think that's going to be the judging and the let's say the managing of all the bouts, and refereing, judging, officials, regulations will all be done by the Japanese organization along with our 2 officials.
これライジン側からも後で詳細の説明できればと思いますが、基本的には我々はアメリカから、オフィシャルを2人連れて行って、母体としては日本の、コミッションですね、その JMOC さんの方で母体として、運営すべてやってもらうように、しているんですが、アメリカ側から、約2名、その JMOC の、運営の中に入れていただいて、それで運営していくという形にはなってます。
わかりました。本気だということですね。シンプルな質問です。5対5の対抗戦はそれぞれ何勝が目標ですか。
So Scott, so we definitely see how serious you are towards this competition by sending our officials and whatnot. But straight up question, simple question. What do you think the fight outcome is going to be out of the 5 fights? How many do you think you're going to win?
I'll tell you. Of course, we want to go 5-0. I mean, that's my goal, right? To win every fight. But in this landscape and in MMA, it's going to be very hard to do. So we'll see. The goal is to go 5-0. But a punch, any one wrong punch, one wrong kick, or one takedown could change the outcome of I guess what I'm saying is one mistake can change the outcome of a fight. So MMA is something that, things could change extremely quickly, and you never know in mixed martial arts. It's hard to call what will be the outcome. But I can tell you my goal, which will be 5-0, and I'm sure Sakakibara wants to go 5-0 against us too, right? I mean, that has to be his goal. So I think that's why this is such a great promotion, because he feels confident. I feel confident, and let the fighters fight, and we'll see what happens.
そうですね。具体的なあれは分かんないんですけど、目標としては5勝0敗で当然行きたいと思います。ただ我々のいるこの業界競技っていうものは、特に MMA ですね。そういった、絶対っていうものはないと思いますので、本当に一つの、間違ったパンチ、キック、一つのテイクダウンで勝負が左右される。本当に試合の流れが一瞬で一つの間違いで変わることが、珍しくないっていうのが我々のいる、競技だと思いますので、何勝何敗っていうのは分かりませんが、時の運だと思うんですが、目標としては5勝0敗。当然、榊原さんも、ライジンの選手が5勝0敗っていうふうに、いくと願っていると思いますので、自分たちとしては、当然、全勝を目指していきたいと思いますが、あとはもう選手たちに委ねたいなと思っています。
榊原さんも同じ考えでよろしいでしょうか。
僕も5勝0敗で、とにかくうちのライジンの選手たちが世界を驚かせるビッグチャンスだと思ってるんですよね。本当にベラトールのトップアスリートたちを僕らが5連勝しちゃえば、ライジンすげえじゃんと。それこそ、サトシも、クレーベルも、みんな、彼らの名前が一躍世界中の MMA 業界を駆け巡ると思うね。僕らにとってはビッグチャンスだと思う。ライジンにとってもだし、うちの選手たちにとっても。だから、スコットには申し訳ないけども、ここは5連勝、させていただこうと思っています。
So Sakakibara-san just said, you know, we also believe that we can go 5-0. And I think this is a great opportunity for RIZEN and the RIZEN fighters to surprise the world. And if, you know, our fighters, RIZEN, can beat all of the Bellator's top athletes, that's going to surprise the world. And that would instantly make our fighters recognized throughout the world. And like, obviously, people know about Roberto Satoshi. They will know about Kleber Koike overnight. And I think it's a great motivation for all the fighters. So it's a great opportunity not only to bring out the RIZEN brand, but individually for these fighters, it's a great opportunity for them to get their name recognized and put the spotlight on them at a global level. So Scott, we're sorry, but we're gonna go 5-0.
I like it. I like it.
All right, we'll take our last question here from Giancarlo Alino.
Thanks. Question for Scott. With the Bellator Lightweight Grand Prix coming up, has there been any talk of AJ McKee, if you were to get the win here against Satoshi Sosa, to get the title shot against Usman Magomedov? Or on the flip side of that, if Satoshi Sosa were to be one of your pound-for-pound top best, would he be willing to maybe extend an invitation to him to compete in the Grand Prix?
Yeah, the lightweight tournament, which we've committed to, will happen in 2023. We haven't decided what month it'll launch or who will fight in this tournament. Then we have some great options. It's an exciting division with a lot of young stars. I'm super excited about it. And then as far as the RIZEN champion fighting AJ, it's you know, the issue is really it's like, you know, tying up their athlete. That's why we didn't make any of these title fights, because if you tie up their athlete for a year, you know, they have a business to run too, right? So we have to be respectful of their business. But, you know, would there be an invitation? Of course, maybe he could fight at the end where we have the champion and the champion can fight the champion kind of thing. But to tie up their current RIZEN champion for a year could be very challenging. I want to say of an ask to Sakakibara, because like you said, we have a business to run and they have a business to run. And what you're seeing on the 31st is a very unique, very special situation where just the timing is right and we can put all these fights together. But, you know, like I said, in the future, timing will be an issue again.
All right. And as we wrap it up, I just wanted to say one more time and wish everybody a very, you know, happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. I do want to let you all know that the fighters from the Bellator versus RIZEN card will be made available for virtual media availabilities the morning of the 29th in Japan, the evening of the 28th here in the States. So keep a lookout from the Bellator PR department for information on that. I do want to thank all the media. I want to thank Sakakibara. I want to thank Mr. Coker for joining us. And again, yeah, have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Us.